5 o'clock. You need to adjust your agenda or anything?
I do need to adjust the agenda. I heard that we're gonna have a citizen, your citizen, and seeing as how that's next, I wanted to make sure that when he comes, he's able to get,
Okay.
be heard.
Yeah, we can do that.
I had something as well, Rick, having errors and omissions.
Yep.
Already, people just got their tax bills. But I have an errors and omissions on a parcel. We can put it wherever. New business.
We can
Number
do
3?
business, yeah, we can do.
Number 3,
Number-
Yeah.
business.
All right, then we'll go to new. Abe, do you have anything under? Okay. We'll go to new business, flood recovery loan approval.
A lot of work, a lot of money being spent, and before we get into even the reimbursement stage of this, we need to cover all these expenses, and I'm guessing and hoping that we can go out for a $2 million loan to cover all our expenses.
How does that work with interest? Does FEMA cover that? Because they know we gotta borrow, or no?
I don't believe FEMA covers
The interest,
the interest.
because the interest now is what, probably 5?
Is it a loan or a line of credit?
It's a line of credit.
Oh, okay,
It's a line of credit from Mascoma Bank, and we asked for $2 million. We pay interest only on that amount of money that we actually draw.
Right.
And at this point, it's got a maturity date of July 26, 2024. And I have the paperwork here to ask the board to sign this. The bills are starting slowly to come in.
Did we,
And
do you know if we
FEMA
had
does
FEMA money within a year from Irene?
I really do not know.
I didn't know if
It
we knew
wasn't,
that.
no, the answer to that is no.
No, so,
We did not.
so this may go longer than a year.
It may go on more than a year,
Okay.
but we can address that at the time.
I guess,
Renew it or, but
Something.
yeah, it, I hope it's gonna be quicker this time. So far, with the financial submission of our expenses, it's all going to be done through a portal online. Whereas last time, we had FEMA
Almost.
reps here having to fill out project worksheets in pencil. It was painful. It was painful. I hope they've streamlined it, and it sounds as though they may. So,
And as far as them covering interest, I'll find that out. I'm not sure 100% either way on that one, if they cover the interest.
Mhm.
yeah, I'd have to look that up. I don't recall us submitting
Right.
that. So there's,
That's a line of credit.
once I have this signed by the select board and then by myself as treasurer, I can send it back to Mascoma, and she said money would be available very quickly. So that's something that we'll need a motion on.
All right, I'll move that we approve the flood recovery line of credit for $2 million at Mascoma Bank for 1 year.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
None?
Did you say for 1 year? I couldn't quite.
Yeah, that's what she had said, 1 year.
I can give you this detail. So it starts with Shannon. They have actual, your name is next to it, and then the pages are marked where to sign.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Mike.
Like buying a house.
Because they
Yeah.
recognize my name.
So while we're signing this, can you tell me what LEMP and LHMP refer to?
Emergency management plan or the local emergency management plan and local
Oh, local.
hazard mitigation plan.
Hazard. I knew it.
While we're signing, we can go to that.
Okay. The basically the local, we had the local emergency management plan. It needed to be updated to the 2023. Brendan had done it in December, but it needed to be updated. And while we did, obviously we changed his name with mine and phone numbers and contacts. But I do have copies of those here if anybody wants to see those.
This is the one where you get together once a year with the fire.
Yeah.
And
And list of, phone
Mount
numbers.
Lawn
And,
Junior and, yeah, making sure everything's all up to.
yeah, it was done
Okay.
December
Yeah.
2022. But it needs, we need to adopt it again as well. Because, things have changed. But everything pretty much stayed the same except for the change of those phone numbers from the 2022. This year would have to just be signed by a board member or by. This is the adoption, so we have adoption date of today for this. And that's just the adoption sheet.
You need a motion to adopt, then I will make said motion to adopt the LMP LEHP as written.
I will second it.
It's the LEMP, I should have put those as two separate things.
Oh, they're separate, okay. Alright, then the LEM.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Alright,
Aye.
None?
And now the LHMP, the Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. It's just what it sounds like. It's listing hazards and how we can mitigate these hazards over the next 5 years. It's basically a plan going forward. And I mean, it can be flooding, it can be any number of things, whatever we want. We put it in this plan and you greatly reduce your availability for grants to get these programs done. And one of the biggest things this is going, by adopting and going forward with a local hazard mitigation plan, we will raise our rating, so we will get 10% on relief back from this flooding. We're gonna do it obviously retroactively, and we can do that. But in order to do that, within the next week, we're gonna have to get a plan, or at least a draft plan to the Vermont Emergency Management Team. That being said, that would also trigger us having a meeting on Monday, a public meeting. So anybody can come and, with concerns or what they have that should be seen in this plan. And of course, tonight as well, we're open to, any suggestions for that as well, as assuming we want to move forward with that. But we're talking a few $100,000 difference probably in money coming back reimbursement wise from the state.
I have a question. To direct it to you or to Rick? Question.
Correct.
Rick, okay. Did we, I have two questions. Did we have anybody that lost their house completely?
No, but I think some of that's still up in the air on whether or not it can be. I mean, from actual physical damage, I don't believe that we did have anybody lose their house, but there's still, there's a lot of mold stuff getting looked into now and assessing the total amount of damage to their.
And then my second question is, when you were talking about a mitigation plan, does that imply that you'll be building back the way it was? Or is there a possibility that?
No, the mitigation plan would it would spell out the problems that that we put into the plan. That it's the plan's up to us. We can say to address flooding and up there and to see if there's anything that can be done in Proctorsville to change flooding, and it would give us some direction and open up better grants to be able to do that.
Okay.
It's not saying that we're putting anything back. It's a plan moving forward so we don't have these issues again, or any issue again, not just flooding, but.
Okay, got it.
What is your pleasure with that?
We have a copy, no, that was just.
Make a motion that we have the plan and adopt it.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Good, we'll get that going, and then when it's ready, we'll formally adopt it.
Right. You're all set, Diane, before we go in?
Yeah, I have one parcel that I need to remove 4.3 acres from. The property owner transferred 4.3 acres to a family member, and while I added it to the other bill, I didn't deduct it from the person who transferred it, so I need to, it's currently listed at 6.90 acres and 4.30 needs to be deducted, and I need to issue a revised bill. And under Vermont statute, once the grand list is lodged, any errors that occur, I have to bring to the select board for approval, unless it's a homestead declaration. But any changes to acreage or value has to go before the board. And the parcel, I can give you the parcel ID, it's 2R08-043, property owned by Vicky Mastriani.
Okay, then I make a motion that we remove the 4.3 acres and then lower or adjust her value of her property.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
George, you second it?
Shannon second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Fine.
Opposed? None? All right. Nothing else? I have a,
Here, citizens,
oh, here citizens.
would we move that off though?
Yeah, he's here. Miguel, you have anything under here citizens?
Oh, yes, thank you. I have information packet to hand out for you guys on, based off of something I'm asking. And I'm requesting sponsorship by the town for the Emergency Watershed Protection Program. And I need the town to initiate the sponsorship in order to just get a water engineer to come and inspect our property to prevent further erosion and protect structures and people. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
You say our property.
oh, my property.
Okay, I didn't know if you meant like
Well, it's
people
my
in town or
property.
your personal I'm fine with either. I just wanted to make
So
sure.
my property is on 131, just past the Carlton Whitesville Bridge, and my property abuts 20 Mile Stream, which crested and just behind my property and eroded about 50 to 100 yards of bank, and where it eroded, it flooded into my neighbors downstream. Now, I know I've heard from various folks who lived in that house and our neighbors that happened during Irene anyways, but this program the initial thing is just to get a water engineer there to look to see if my property qualifies for the next step in this process. And I've been working with Mr. Chambers and Brendan McNamara, who's also just started the process in this program. So all it's asking for is a sponsorship from the town to submit an initial application, and all that does is just gets a water engineer to come and inspect the property. Further down the line, if I'm approved, there is a
I think it's up to 25%.
yeah, it asks for 25% of in-kind services from the town, cost share. But again, that's down the line, many steps if I'm approved.
So, and this is just for you, so anybody else in town that wants to do this.
But yes, this
Would have
is
to come
something
in
that I
and
believe
would
can
have to
just
get
kind of
everybody?
spark, for more people, just spark their interest, because it doesn't have like any parameters on the size of the watershed. So it can be, something very simple, from a large stream like 20 Mile Stream to keep folks on the Black River, to folks on other smaller brooks and streams in the area.
So if the town is held responsible for 25% of every property that went through this process, we could end up with quite a bit of a liability here.
Well, again,
How does that work?
I'm not too familiar with that. That's why the initial step taken is just a sponsorship to get the water engineer for the program to inspect the property. It doesn't, from that point on, it really doesn't hold the town to any further steps from there, because the water engineer could come and say, no, you don't meet the criteria that we kind of do this program with. But again, yes, further down the line, there is a 25% cost share, but that could be done in-kind services, so donated services.
Yeah, but that's the
It's this
questionable.
The sponsorship does it. What I got to look into with with this program is if those in-kind services, which is either money or equipment from the town, could be something that is done by volunteer work as well. If it's done by volunteer, and there's no, nothing for the town, but it is being a sponsor is hefty. Did
like
Miguel,
to
did
be
you-
out here, but
Did you look,
I just wonder.
did we get you that sheet today? From, we were
The
talking,
one, so that one is, so I sent an email to the water engineer kind of email to come and try to schedule an inspection or just an initial kind of site assessment. But they're under different websites, because I looked at your the paperwork I was provided, and those are under different websites entirely.
then this
The other
program.
one, yes, other than this, other than the Emergency Watershed Protection Program. The other one where it says that it required things to be filled in, that was actually, or that is to be filled out by local government.
Oh, I see. I didn't see that part today.
Yeah,
I thought,
I looked into it and I got to that page where you fill it out on the website itself, and that is local government, because it asks for your job title and it asks for your town and various things, and then it asks for a second contact. So like if you wanted to do the first contact, you would have to put town manager, and then the second contact would maybe be then Mr. Glidden as a secondary contact. But that was for emergency response, like we need emergency response now or in very short notice. This is down the line for just preventing further erosion and things of that nature, and protecting further loss of property, and also protecting occupied structures and things of that nature. But
okay,
again, the initial thing is, and I understand where Mr. Timko is coming from, is unfortunately, yes, this information is out there for everybody to go to their town to possibly ask them for, for sponsorship, but I think that's kind of your responsibility. And I think the initial just starting the process so I can get a water engineer to do a site assessment is not assuming the great responsibility, at the very end of this, of 25% of in-kind services.
I meet with Scott Jensen tomorrow at noon as well, who's the river management engineer. If I can I'll bring this up with him obviously as well and see and pick his brain a little bit on, see what he has out there for programs, or if he can even say, yes, I'll allow you to do that. What will you need to do down there to stop the scouring? And if it can be done by volunteers, I'll ask him all that tomorrow.
Yeah, that's my bill.
A few more.
I just have a question on this. It says the Vermont NRCS EWP fact sheet with sponsor obligation if eligible sites are to be repaired. And is that attached? Is that one of these?
That's, I think you have a different one from what I have.
It could be. I got this earlier today. I didn't get through this copy. But I was looking for the fact sheet that lists the sponsor's obligation.
Well, at the bottom of our handout, the last page has some of them.
I did a handout. I knew Miguel had mentioned
Oh,
that he
okay.
had citizens
I missed it.
comments.
Thank you.
I did a handout as well, that I think is a little bit different. If you wanted to take a look at that.
Sir,
So one of the, so I've been talking to everybody, and one of the challenges that Whitesville has, where the Conway stream comes there in Whitesville, is that during or after Irene, there was some brief 2 weeks or something where they let people do stuff to the river to remediate it. But if you remember, during Irene, the leaches were in the midst of trying to figure out their house, which did have to be torn down and replaced. And people were in the midst of that. And so no remediation was done to that part of the stream after Irene. And so then it was bad, but it was left that way, and then nothing could be done. And then with this most recent flooding, the unnamed flood of 23, it was worse. And then again, as Miguel said, the water came. Blessedly, the leaches built up higher, so they didn't have a problem. Miguel didn't have a problem, but it did scour more of the bank lower. And so then, as far as trailer took I think a bigger hit this time than during Irene.
Close.
Yeah.
It's close.
And again, blessedly, the Noyes house had been moved and raised, and so they did not have the floodwater issue. I know at the church we had more water. Chair Wallace-Evers said there was more water than Irene before 27. So,
thank you.
And just to follow up, again, I was very, very lucky. That house has something about it, because it's been there since 1849 and has, gotten a little bit of flooding, but has not had anywhere near what my neighbors has had. So I'm very blessed and I'm very lucky, and I know that. And this program will somewhat help my property, but it really will benefit my neighbors next to me tremendously by shoring up that erosion of the bank, because again, where it crested right behind my house, but then it completely eroded about 20 feet from my back corner and just took out that whole sandy bank. And whether or not what this program can do and mitigate any further flooding is, no one knows except for an expert. But I would at least like to have the assessment done, and again, that just takes the sponsorship of the town to do that.
I have a few comments.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I'm troubled by is that I think it was interesting that this is called watershed protection, because one of the problems that all of the towns are having is that they don't look at the entire watershed. What they're doing is looking at projects on a piece-by-piece basis. And the problem starts and behind Miguel's property. I mean, that is sort of the confluence of a huge watershed. So it, to me, and I don't know if there's any money available, I don't know if anybody anybody else has an interest in it. But it seems to me that at some point, we need to get somebody, an expert, like you said, to look at the watershed. Whether it's Davis Road, I mean, there's all kinds of, it affects so many different properties. The other point that I'd like to make is that one of the things that in my professional life I've experienced is that when you have water issues, flooding, high water through storms, that if you have dumped riprap in the winter, you get ice plucking. The ice just pulls the stones right out. And then when you have a flood event, they just tumble. And so I don't know if you can't do it everywhere, but it would seem to me that we should look at armor plating some of the riprap so that we have the flat stones that don't get plucked during storm events. But I don't see that happening anywhere. And so if that doesn't happen, then we can expect the same result again. And I don't know, these are things this isn't like new stuff. I mean, this is like really old stuff.
And that's also could be, the number one thing on the local hazard mitigation plan as well, which opens up funding if, to do something with, to do the whole watershed study. That could be on that.
Maybe sorry if we take a little bit of time to look into this. It says we have 60 days, so I think we still have time.
Oh, yeah, this is, again, this is something that's a long term.
I don't wanna say no, but I also wanna be more
definitely.
informed.
I understand that this is a long-term kind of process, again, because Mr. Chambers is new to the process and new in general. And then Mr. Brendan McNamara, he's the one who actually
Right.
provided me the information, and he's starting the process in Ludlow, so he's just a little bit farther ahead. But again, where this leads, nobody knows unless they've actually completed the program kind of thing. So I understand, the concerns brought forth, especially on a financial basis and things of that nature. So I understand.
Maybe Rick, if you spend some time with Brenda talking about this. I'd
When-
like to if it's a good idea.
Right.
Like Miguel says, get as many people as possible in on it, but
Right.
I also don't wanna then have the town be liable for
I
a
can't-
whole lot of
I can't.
money where
Yeah.
90% are paid for 10%
Right.
remediation or whatever, it's,
I talked to Brennan and we were gonna piggyback because he's gonna have the program, somebody from the program talk to them.
Okay.
We would talk to him as well that day. I can't
That'd be
speak
great.
for Ludlow, but I'm guessing that every town is not gonna be able to be fiscally responsible for these.
All right,
thanks.
thanks. Okay, we'll have a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second, all in
Thank
favor?
you, Miguel.
I
Aye.